Hey everybody, how's it going? Christian from Treasure Town here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the $5,000 bills. These are ultra high denomination notes, so they are super valuable, and there are very few of them out there, but there's still a lot of really interesting backstory. They kind of started in 1861 and continued all the way up until about 1934. They were removed in circulation in 1969, but they were gone well before that. I'll tell you everything you need to know. Sometimes it's a little sparse on information because not tons is known, but you definitely want to watch the video. Not going to take super long, and there's a lot of information inside. Let's head over to the presentation that I made. And I guess we'll just get started with a little bit of general discussion on the $5,000 bills. When they were phased out, as I mentioned, in 1969, that was really long after they had disappeared from circulation. Only 342 bills remained in 1969 even accounted for, but when they were being used in their heyday, so to speak, they were only pretty much financial transactions and large ones with banks and the federal government. And this denomination really probably won't come back because now there's the electronic money transfer options available, and the government doesn't want to deal with some of the money laundering or drug trafficking issues that they could run into, even though $100, which is our largest note today, probably could have compared to $5,000. That's just me saying that. There's no statistic backing it, but I would believe that if somebody told me that. Now, I guess we can get started with the interest-bearing notes. There's almost no information about these, but those were really the first form of the $5,000 bill, and these would have been large size as well. And only 7 across all large size notes are known to exist. 6 of those are in government hands. 1 of them is privately owned, and most of these won't have prices attached to them because there literally are none. They don't. They're not really existent. So anyways, the 1865 $5,000 gold certificate, there's a single one known in a government collection, and some of the earlier issues of gold certificates are kind of interesting just because in addition to having the Register of the Treasury and the Treasurer of the United States, they might also have an additional, some of the earlier issues, one of the Assistant Treasurers of the United States. We have almost no information on the 1870 $5,000 gold certificate outside of that Madison appeared on it. He was, kind of a steady figure throughout all of this currency, as you'll see. In 1878, we have this $5,000 legal tender. It's a really cool back as well, probably just because it's so different from anything that we've really seen. But this existing note sold for $800,000 in 2007, and the reason that it survived was because it was presented to the Chinese government as a specimen note so that they would be aware of what authentic U.S. currency actually looked like. So the other interesting question that this poses is that if China got a specimen, there's probably some other countries that may have gotten a specimen note, and so maybe that will turn up in the future. But this one, extremely valuable, really the only privately held large size note on the market for the $5,000 series. In 1882, there was also a pretty similar one. There's 2 existing ones that are in museums. And then 1888 also had more of these made, but we don't have any photos of them because they were all redeemed. And really, these were just solely intended to balance accounts at the time, at least in 1888, without transporting large volumes of gold bullion. So instead of carting around all the gold, they were able to just kind of use these notes and forget about moving around the actual gold. Next up, though, we don't have any crazy amount of information on these ones either. We have the 1918 $5,000 Federal Reserve note. 5 of them are known to exist, but they're all held by the government, so very low chance of them ever really hitting the secondary market. And the note is plausible to be held in some collector hands. Maybe it's in a safety deposit box. Everybody likes to think that if one of these surfaced, it would be a really big deal. And just kind of as a trivial fact, it's one of 4 bills that actually features the dollar sign on it. You can see in the 5,000. I just thought that was a funny fact and that I would include it. The next one, though, is a small size note, 1928 $5,000 Federal Reserve note. Recently, one sold in VF35, so that's pretty worn because a lot of these would be in better condition just because they didn't circulate that much. This sold for $100,000. I don't think that's the one, the number one serial number in front of us. It was a different note, but still, that's a very large sum of money. And the 1928 ones, they were printed for all but Philadelphia, St. Louis, and Minneapolis in terms of the Federal Reserve districts. And the 1928 bills, there's only about 24 of them in existence, whereas there's at least 100 on the 1934. And that number mismatch, it's like 24 of these, 7 of the large size, and somewhere in the hundreds for 1934. That's where I'm kind of wondering. It seems to be lower than the 342 number earlier quoted. But anyways, these have a premium over the 1934s. And then there's the gold certificate, which is taped up. It's in the Smithsonian, and there's no others available out there. So, we don't have tons of information or history on this just because, again, it's so rare. And then we'll wrap up with the 1934. Slightly different, a little bit later on, the pricing. There was a $60,000 sale for an XF45 and then $138,000 for a Mint State 63. These are currency grades, so maybe it's not actually Mint State. I bet it's some other terminology. But anyways, it's in a good condition. And these were printed in everywhere except Minneapolis, and there's no star notes, so that's just an additional feature. Sometimes if there's a star note, it can make the note way more valuable, but in this case, they're pretty expensive as is, and there's not going to be that extra dimension of rarity to look for. So like I said, pretty quick presentation, but a full overview of the $5,000 bill. Sometimes I say good luck finding it. I think that would be tough to do that today, but it would be awesome if one of you ends up owning one of these extremely rare $5,000 bills. Thanks for watching the video. I'd encourage you to subscribe to Treasure Town as well as like and comment. Check out my other platforms like my website, treasuretownYT.com. Also some information if you're interested in supporting the channel. Then I also have an Instagram at TreasureTownYT, Twitter at TreasureTownYT, and Facebook Treasure Town. So maybe I'll see you on some of those other platforms, and have a great day.